So let's get one thing straight. Braids are not protective styles if your hair breaks off the second that your hair is loose. There's no magic in braids. It's something that's only really meant for people whose hair health is already intact. Braids are not a fix for dryness, damage, or neglect. If your hair cannot survive outside of braids without breaking, tangling, snapping, thinning, falling out, getting really dry and brittle, you do not have a styling problem. What you have most likely is a hair shaft disorder. So what's really going on with your fragile hair that breaks almost instantly if it's not in braids? There are a number of conditions that cause your hair shaft to be weak, prone to breakage, really dry, brittle, crunchy to touch, and extremely hard to grow and retain length. In this video, I'm going to give you 6 hair shaft disorders that can be sabotaging your hair growth, how you're doing them, and what you can do to stop it. So let's get into it.
I am back. What it do, baby?
Let's talk about the very first one, the most common one, trichinodosis. This is what you guys know as single strand knots. You know those tiny little knots that form on each individual strand? This is usually happening at the ends, but it can happen through the hair shaft depending on how much you detangle your hair with conditioner in the shower. This is especially common in women with naturally curly hair who practice different team natural practices that I list here on the screen. I've talked about it before, but I digress. I'm not doing it again. Check the videos in the link in the description. Y'all haven't listened, but so why does this hair shaft disorder happen? Well, the curls, they loop around themselves like any type of curl does within nature, like a slinky or a ribbon. And then the dry ends cause friction because most people with naturally curly hair think that they're giving their hair hydration by putting oils on, but what you're actually doing is blocking the hydration out because your body only gets hydration from the water you drink and from the water in the environment. So if you have a moisturizer, which is a sealant on top of the cuticle, then the hair is naturally going to be dry. Too much manipulation. Most women with naturally curly hair think that if they get the brush through their hair that they detangled it, when all you've actually done is break your hair off. All of that hair that was in the brush is the hair that you yanked through to get the brush through. So that's a really big thing, and it is one of the #1 causes of single strand knots. Most women with curly hair give themselves trichinodosis during the detangling process, but I digress. This one is caused by skipping trims and again rough detangling practices. Disorder number 2. This next one is called Trickodosis. This is what we call regular split ends, is when the hair split at the bottom of the hair shaft and then go up. That is the scientific word for split ends. When your hair splits from the end upwards, a lot of people for whatever reason think that this isn't true, but once your ends split at the bottom, they keep going all the way up until they reach the hair follicle, and then your hair ends up splitting within the hair's follicle, which leads to a whole different hair shaft disorder. If you want me to break that down, let me know in the comments. Monoelectrics. This is another hair shaft disorder. Monoelectrics is a genetic disorder that gives the hair shaft a bead-like appearance, like here displayed on the screen. Hair breaks down easily at the thin points in between the beads. Now, if again you want a detailed breakdown of this hair shaft disorder, let me know in the comments below, and whichever one out of these you think you may have, let me know in the comments and I'll get to it. Next one. Pelle Tortai is the name of this next hair shaft disorder, and this hair shaft disorder, the translation literally means twisted hair because the hair shaft is literally flattened and spiraled. This is going to make the hair very weak and extremely prone to breakage. Under a microscope, your hair shaft literally looks like a ribbon if it is in that way. And a lot of you don't understand that somebody who has this hair shaft disorder, your hair kind of looks looks regular to the naked eye, it's only under a microscope or by a trained trichologist or dermatologist that knows what this hair shaft disorder looks like. I'm also a cosmetologist, and when I was practicing cosmetology, I had no idea what this hair shaft disorder was, because in cosmetology school you don't go over hair shaft disorders. So let's keep going. This next one, I remember when I was in school learning hair shaft disorders and I heard about it, I was like, y'all are making stuff up. But this next one is called bubble hair, and bubble hair is a hair shaft disorder that is caused by you putting a flat iron on wet or damp hair. So even though some of these different flat irons, like the steam flat iron and all of those things, if y'all want to use them, then it's cool. I'm not saying that it's gonna cause bubble hairs over the years, but bubble hair is caused by you adding heat to wet hair, whether with a flat iron. And stick, girl, we just talking about hair shaft disorders, bubble hair. When you put a flat iron to wet or damp hair, bubbles form within the hair shaft and under the cuticle layer, and it makes the hair like weak and easy to breakage and more prone to breakage. And the thing is, a lot of people that have bubble hair don't even know that they have bubble hair. You just think that your hair is dry, so you go get an oil or a butter and you put it on it and it don't help, or you get braids. Let's keep going. Number 6. Triarexis Vaginata. This one is something that you actually have heard of. You probably just didn't know the scientific name for it. This one is also known as bamboo hair. This is where the outer layer forms going inward like a telescope. This makes your hair extremely fragile, and not all the time, but a lot of times it's linked to certain health conditions. Looking at the things that you guys are just attributing to be dry hair and you running to oils to help yourself with that problem is one of the main reasons why everybody's constantly running from product to product year after year after year, because oils, butters, these greases, all of these things that you're doing to your hair, especially braids, do not fix the hair shaft disorder. So now that you know just 6 of the many hair shaft disorders that you are forced to learn about in school, right? Now that you know just 6 of these, I have a question for you. In what way, shape, or form does braiding your hair help with any of these hair shaft disorders? In no way, shape, or form. Braids only would make any of these issues worse. It wouldn't make it better. You having your hair braided up would not make any of these 6 hair shaft disorders better. It wouldn't make it go away. Excuse me, if anything, it amplifies it. This is why most people lose the majority of their hair when they take the braids out. Yeah, you experience a lot of length, but you're not able to hold on to it. And then you're also a person who's like, okay, unless my hair is braided, it's gonna break off. Well, the reason that is because most likely you have a hair shaft disorder. And one thing that you have to know is that most of the hair shaft disorders that I just expressed to you or just explained to you, you cannot see with the naked eye. The only one you can really see by like just looking at it is single strand knots, because a lot of times there'll be like multiple knots on one strand, so you can see it and you can feel it a lot easier. But a lot of these hair shaft disorders you cannot see at all with the naked eye, so it really puts you in a position where you have to ask yourself, is me getting braids the best thing for me if I have these hair shaft disorders, right? If I have this hair shaft disorder, is putting my hair in braids going to help it? And then after that, we would say, oh, well, me wearing my hair naturally curlier in an afro, that would do it. But would it though? Would you wearing your hair in an afro and not being able to run your fingers through it, when you know what all of these, just these 6, right? Just these 6, there are many, but just knowing what your hair is in, what structure your hair is in, does just letting your hair air dry or does just blow drying your hair and just leaving it sitting on top of your head without doing something to it without giving it some type of pattern or routine, do you think that would heal a hair shaft disorder? Any of the 6 that I just named. I'm not saying that it will. I'm not saying that it won't. Yes, I am. I am saying that the braids don't help. But I'm asking you, does that make sense to you, right? And again, these are the questions that we have to ask ourselves. These are the conversations that we have to have. And if we have these conversations, it really puts yourself in that perspective of like, okay, so what do I do instead? And then at that point, you go looking for different resources, right? You go find you a channel that gives the information for free, or you really take your time and do the due diligence to do the real research for yourself, or join something like the Growth Cycle Blueprint that breaks everything down for you. And my Growth Cycle Blueprint also includes my 7-day challenge. So it's like you get the 7-day challenge when you join the Growth Cycle Blueprint. But I digress. There's so many other things, ebooks. There's so many ways that you can learn the proper ways, or you can ask your grandma, or I don't know. I don't know, but I do know that braids do absolutely nothing to when you have hair shaft disorders. And I also want you to understand that most of you don't have dry hair. Most of you have hair shaft disorders that are going undiagnosed and unaddressed, and you think that oils and butters and greases and creams and certain hairstyles and braids are gonna fix those, where in reality, most of the time, your braids and the way that you wear your hair and the things that you do when your hair is in braids, the amount of time that you keep those braids in your head, all of these things attribute to the rate in which your hair is growing and the rate in which you are able to maintain that length. And it is the main reason why most black women, when somebody says your hair isn't supposed to be in braids 24/7, your response to me is, if I don't have my hair in braids, my hair is gonna break off. And sis, you have a hair shaft disorder, because your hair should be able to be free without breaking off. But I digress. I love you so much. Join me in the comments. Y'all know I love to talk in the comments, so let's talk there. I would love to hear what you gotta say, but be respectful. Just be respectful.